The Long Reach is a side-scrolling action-adventure horror by first-time developer Painted Black Games, released on March 14th of 2018. Taking inspiration from 80s horror flicks as well as games such as The Cave and Lone Survivor, does The Long Reach in fact manage to grasp excellence, or is it just another average entry to the trending pixel wave subgenre? Taking place in the fictional New Hampshire town of Barrow, the story of The Long Reach follows genre trope hipster scientist Stu, whom after blacking out in a sound studio at the local science institute, awakens to a haunting realization that the world he once knew seemingly gave the big adios, as the institute has been ravaged and his recently sane co-workers have all turned into crazed lunatics. Throughout the game's 2 to 4 hour campaign, Stu must escape this new nightmare and attempt to hopefully restore the world back to its normal crazy state in the process. Seeing that a large portion of the game's admission fee is the narrative itself, I won't go too much further into explaining its bizarre unfoldings. With that being said, like most 80s sci-fi or horror films that unmistakably inspired it, the second half of the story sort of drowns itself in its own lore, and by the time the ending credits rolled, The Long Reach felt more like a stretch.
You've become the video word made flesh.
I am the video word made flesh.
However, as confusing as its ending destination was, I did mostly enjoy the ride there due to the game's witty writing,
creepy atmosphere,
and bizarre references throughout. In short, the gameplay is sort of a mixed bag. The Long Reach is a 2D side-scrolling point-and-click adventure with some Outlast hiding segments shoehorned in to keep the gameplay from feeling stale. The control scheme is simple enough. The player can move left or right while holding the X button to run, interact with people or items by pressing the A button, and can pull up a menu of the things Stu's currently holding by pressing Y. Most of the solutions to its puzzles are abstract, however, the limited amount of things for the player to interact with help to usually keep any guessing game a short one. Interactions with NPCs is spruced up a little bit with the ability to choose certain dialogue responses. However, as much as this aided in the player feeling like they're in charge of where a conversation went, it sadly was a superficial addition, as outside of a handful of choices that would lead to Stu instantly getting killed, the different dialogue choices are met with identical responses. The game uses an autosave only system, which is mostly generous but inherently imperfect, as I ran into the same bug about 10 times where Stu would simply stop moving, resulting in a frustrating reset and often annoying revisit to several of the dialogue sequences. The Long Reach has a lengthy loading screen whenever first booted up, but keeps the experience fluid and load-free afterwards. Overall, the gameplay is decent. However, having to reset a 2 to 4 hour game upwards of 10 times pretty much hinges on being unacceptable, which is unfortunate because a patch could easily squash this particular bug, leaving mostly a smooth and enjoyable game in its wake. Composer Russian Viter's score consists of 12 tracks that are all effective in recreating some of that 80s horror magic. A John Carpenter-inspired piano intro would hauntingly build up to an often synth-heavy kick to the face, not only at times giving me the creeps, but also thinking about the fun era that inspired the game. While effective at plucking nostalgia chords, the soundtrack on a few occasions is pretty misplaced. Basically, events seem to trigger certain songs, but after said events would pass, those initially fitting songs would just continue to build up as if something dreadful was happening, when in all reality Stu was walking around a bathroom making jokes or something. And that really leaves a very unpolished vibe to the whole sound design of the game. Like most titles of the Pixel Wave, The Long Reach is absent of any voice work. However, as mentioned, the dialogue's pretty good, despite its different choices not rewarding the player with alternate conversations. Bugs aside, perhaps The Long Reach's most obvious misstep would be the jumbled narrative of its second half. As much as Painted Black Games got right about the era, they tragically forgot one of the cardinal rules of successful 80s horror. The unknown is always scarier. Overall, I did enjoy my time with the title, but unfortunately, I'm unable to give it a complete recommendation as its setbacks just caused too much damage to the short experience. The title can be picked up for $14.99 on the Nintendo eShop and will take up just under 1/2 GB of storage on your Switch. As always, thank you so much for watching the video, it means the world to me. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you want to see more like it, or not. But you could if you wanted to. I work so hard on making these, they're not that good, but like, I think my cat likes them. I think they're pretty good. My girlfriend is nice about it. I really don't think I have a future doing this, to be honest. I work a real job and then I come home and I'm all tired and then just try to fumble around doing this. It's really not paying out too well. I got a check in the mail, or an email, a check from Nintendo the other day for 1 cent. That was fun.